So responsible AI is the implementation of artificial intelligence solutions in a way that thinks about the unintended consequence, so the bad things that may happen, with the goal of, number one, identifying them in advance, number two, identifying them if they happen, and number three, mitigating the bad outcomes. Broadly speaking, there's two types of biases. One is experimental bias, the other is societal bias. So experimental bias consists of the things that we are able to measure. So measurement bias might be, I have a quantity that I'm trying to measure, but I have an imperfect way of measuring it. So for example, I have a scale that's a little bit off all the time. Design bias could be something like, I'm making assumptions about my model or assumption of what my algorithm can do, and can it really do those things? And then we have reporting bias, or something I sometimes call the Yelp effect, or when people answer a survey or a question or do a thing in a particular way, they may not always be telling the information as it is, or you may be missing part of the information. The second part of the bias is societal bias. So the important thing about experimental bias is it's always about your data. You can usually fix it or try to find something better, or somehow it may be repairable. So in societal bias, the important thing to know is you can have perfect data, but you have an imperfect world. So for example, I can have all the information about people being hired at a particular company going back in time, and it's perfectly good information, but it actually reflects an unfair world. So a lot of responsible AI is not just understanding the technology, but it's also understanding the social implications that feed the technology that we're building. Primary harms of the space that we talk about often, we talk about bias in AI. So this could be a loss of opportunity, a loss of liberty, being denied something, and often these things are legislated against. So it is illegal to deny somebody a job based on their race, based on their gender, based on their disability. So primary harms are when we are denying somebody something that is a very fundamental thing they need. Secondary harms are to go into the space of sort of the algorithmic creepiness, the uncanny valley, right? So what does it really mean, or how harmful is it really if an algorithm is suggesting movies to me based on my race or based on my gender? Is that illegal? No. Might it be creating a world in which we are nudged a particular way, or our preferences are being assumed about us, about things like race and gender, which makes us all kind of feel uncomfortable? Yes. So the secondary harm space is very interesting because we start talking about examples that may seem frivolous or silly, but actually are quite interesting. And the best example of thinking about a secondary harm is think about the filter bubble. So algorithms feed us news and media based on what it thinks we will read. What that results in is a population of people who only understand their own viewpoint, but don't understand other people's. A frivolous example of the filter bubble, when I go on Twitter, let's say I like to watch cat videos, and the only things I want to see on Twitter are cat videos. If I watch those, the algorithm will feed me more cat videos. I am happy because I am just in the space I want to be in. Negative is when we think about political viewpoints, social viewpoints, issues that are contentious in society that actually matter. Your views on gay marriage, your views on maybe the legality of drugs. So if I'm only able to see viewpoints that agree with me, the two parts that are dangerous, number one, is that I actually think that everybody only thinks like me, and therefore I have a correct viewpoint. Number two, I'm unable to understand someone else's viewpoint because I think they're just totally crazy. When I give talks to technologists about ethics in AI, I talk about moral outsourcing. It's when we anthropomorphize AI, so we use terms like a sexist algorithm or a racist algorithm, and in doing so, we remove the human from the situation. So why does that matter? Because it feeds our dystopian narrative. So when I say it's a racist algorithm, it's as if there's no human being behind it when actually there is. So when we do that, we're absolving ourselves of responsibility, but then we're also creating a world in which we don't actually control the outcome. So it's a critical and important thing to understand that AI is created by humans. The biases come from humans and humanity, and it's not taking this independent action in the sense that human beings take independent action.